Good morning, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful black people. I hope that all is well in your world, and this day become a great day, one of the greatest days of your life. Beautiful, intelligent black folks, know this. Know that white folks are salivating. White folks are salivating for black death and black suffering. They always have. From the inception of this plantation called America, white folks have salivated. They have enjoyed. They have longed for. They have used black death and black suffering as entertainment, amusement for themselves. It is now in their DNA. It is in their DNA due to generational genetic mutations. It is in their DNA due to generational genetic mutations. For example, public lynching during slavery, during the Jim Crow era. White folks enjoyed public lynching of black folks. White folks enjoyed burning the bodies of black folks. Sometimes black folks were burned alive. White folks would bring their entire families, including their children. There would be massive crowds convening, drinking, eating, celebrating the burning of a black person or the public lynching of a black person. Slavery, the Civil War, the Civil War was a rebellion of white supremacists against the state, against the government. The Civil War was a white supremacist rebellion against the state. The government put it down. Nonetheless, the government was complicit in establishing fake Reconstruction, the Jim Crow laws, etc., etc. Jim Crow was again just a means for white folks to again enjoy, celebrate black suffering and black death. Even during the Civil Rights Movement, do you remember how white folks would kill, murder, shoot down black folks like they were animals, lynch black folks, kill black folks, beat the hell out of black folks with batons, bats, baseball bats, and clubs, anything that they could get their hands on to salivate, to celebrate, to enjoy black suffering and black death. Do you know that the refusal of health care to black folks has always been a way for white folks to again enjoy, celebrate black death and black suffering. Immediately after the Civil War, these racist, inhumane white folks established laws that said no black person would have health care because no white person would employ black folk. And health care was purposely tied to their employment. When they negotiated, established sharecropping, just another way for white folks to ensure that black folks would suffer, that black folks would be homeless, that black folks would starve to death, that black folks would be marginalized. Sharecropping did that for white folks. White folks have always salivated for black death and black suffering. White folks have always enjoyed black suffering and black death, and they still do today. You remember the Red Summer of 1919? White folks intentionally attacked, murdered, slaughtered black folks during that entire summer of 1919. They even attacked black folks that had served in the war. Soldiers, black folks that had served in the war was attacked, murdered, publicly lynched. White folks have always salivated for black death. White folks have always enjoyed black death and black suffering. Listen to the lyrics of rap songs that white folks will produce today. They make sure that the black artists have contained in their lyrics black suffering, black death is glorified, black crimes, criminality is glorified, black drug use, drug dealing is criminalized, black disparaging of the black family is glorified. White folks have always enjoyed, celebrated black suffering and black death. Do you know during the Depression, black folks were refused assistance? White folks was given all the assistance that they needed. Black folks were refused, marginalized. Just another way to appease the demented minds, the demented desires of racist, inhumane white folks. They have always enjoyed, they have always celebrated black death and black suffering, and they still do today. The slave catchers, 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 the slave catchers. That's what they were about, to make sure that black folks was killed, to make sure that black folks was beaten, to make sure that black folks was whipped with a leather saturated with water whip that inflicted more pain and suffering on black folks. White folks have always celebrated, salivated, enjoyed black suffering and black death, and they still do today, my beautiful, intelligent black brothers and sisters. Do you know that white folks enjoyed using black folks for guinea pigs in their sick medical experiments? Do you know how many black women and black men were ruined, injured, suffered for the remainder of their lives if they lived through the sick medical experiments? White folks have always enjoyed, celebrated black death and black suffering. King Leopold of Belgium, the guy that created a monopoly harnessing rubber. Do you know that he killed 10 million black folks in Africa? Do you know he dismembered 5 million more? White folks have always enjoyed, celebrated, salivated for black death and black suffering, and they still do today. Cecil Rhodes, remember that name? Cecil Rhodes, the Rhodes Scholar, is in his honor. Cecil Rhodes established a monopoly regarding the gold, G-O-L-D, fields in southern Africa. Hence is how most of the gold from that region ended up in England. Cecil Rhodes stole it. Do you know how many black folks died, suffered, being forced to mine gold in those gold fields in southern Africa? White folks have always enjoyed, celebrated black death and black suffering, and they still do today. The De Beers family in southern Africa monopolized the diamond mines, responsible for the death of millions of black Africans, the dismemberment, the injuring of more, being forced to labor 16 to 20 hours per day. The De Beers family enjoyed black suffering and black death. During the Civil Rights Movement, it was no different. J. Edgar Hoover, the federal government, the state governments was responsible for murdering Huey P. Newton, Malcolm X, Dr. MLK Jr., and many other civil rights workers, participants that was black. They followed them, tracked them, and eventually killed them, just like they follow, track an animal, and then shoot them down. Hence is what happened to Huey P. Newton, Dr. MLK Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and many other civil rights workers. Racist white folks have always enjoyed black suffering and black death, and they still do today. The war on drugs in the 1980s, the 1990s, was just another way, just another tool to appease white folks, to appease and stimulate the sick minds of racist white folks, to make sure that black folks suffered from drug use, from drug dealing, from incarceration. Destroying the black family was a specific enjoyment of white folks. Destroying the black family was a special enjoyment, appeasement for racist white folks. Remember the term super predator? It would apply to young black men. Young black men were called super predators, while young white men were praised and glorified. Redlining in the black communities, just another way to ensure that black folks was marginalized economically, that black folks suffered from sicknesses because of no health insurance. Because if you're not employed, then you cannot have health care in this fucked up country. In this fucked up country. If you're unemployed, then you do not have access to health insurance. White folks established that centuries ago so that black folks would never have sufficient health care. They would die. They would suffer from illnesses that people having health care could be cared for, cured, medicated, treated using established therapeutics, etc., etc. Unemployment, high unemployment of black folks is just another tool to appease the delusionist minds of white folks. They liked to know, to see, to hear that black folks are suffering. It is a turn on for them. For some of them, it is sexual excitement. They become sexually aroused because they know that black folks are dying. Black folks are suffering. Not only are they racist and murderers, they're sadistic. They're inhuman. The loans, the GI Bills were denied from black folks. Business loans. GI loans was denied from black folks until the late 1960s. Until the late 1960s, sick white folks made sure that black folks suffered. Sick white folks made sure that black folks died. White folks have always enjoyed black death and black suffering. Lynching in America. Do you know that it is documented that 3,959 black Americans were lynched between 1877 and 1950? White folks have always enjoyed, black death and black suffering. Do you remember how King Leopold would have the children, the wives, the families of black rubber workers if they did not produce enough in a given day? Then King Leopold would order the hands, the arms, the feet of family members amputated, removed. White folks have always enjoyed black suffering and black death, my beautiful, intelligent black brothers and sisters. No vote, but black folks paid taxes. Just another way to assure that black folks suffered. Miseducation, no education, just another way to satisfy the sick minds, the sick desires of racist white folks. Do you know in the 1870s, when the unions was created by racist white folks, the unions was created intentionally to remove skilled labor, black folks, from those skilled labor positions and give those skilled labor positions to unqualified white folks? Again, just another process used by sick white folks to make sure that black folks suffered. Police brutality and silence. That is why so many white folks are silent regarding white racist cops murdering black folks, shooting black folks 7 times in the back, shooting black folks in the head, suffocating black folks with a knee on the neck, suffocating black folks with chokeholds, etc., etc. White folks have always enjoyed black suffering and black death, and they still do today. Guns and the killing of exotic animals. Do you see how Donald Trump Jr. and all of the Trump family will go to Africa or India and purposely hunt down, track, and kill these exotic animals and then propagate the pictures all across the globe? Do you know that in their sick minds, they are wishing that that dead animal was a black person, a black man, a black woman, a black child, and they could take pictures, similar pictures, and propagate those pictures across the globe? White folks in their sick minds still today enjoy black death and black suffering. Hence, it's why they own so many guns. When those crazy white folks storm into the Michigan State House, when they infiltrate these peaceful protests with their guns, they are hoping to have an opportunity to kill black folks, to inflict injury on black folks, to appease their sick, delusionist, white racist minds. White folks salivate for the death of black folks. White folks salivate for the suffering of black folks. If they kill Obamacare, then again, they will remove health care from millions of black folks. Black folks will suffer. Black folks will die. Those white folks know that, but they are doing it intentionally because they salivate for, they long for, they enjoy black death and black suffering. Hence is why they want to eradicate food stamps and housing assistance. Although that will kill, isolate, affect more white folks than blacks. But their desires for black death and black suffering is so intense, they are willing to use white folks as collateral damage in order to get the enjoyment that they get from black death and black suffering. Black communities was purposely located in areas where the air would be toxic, where the water would be toxic, because white folks knew that black folks would die from it. Black folks would suffer, and white folks have always longed for, salivated for black death and black suffering. Every black town that was successful, Rosewood, Florida, Greenwood, Oklahoma, Seneca, New York, Wilmington, North Carolina, just to name a few, they were all destroyed by sick white folks because they enjoyed black death and black suffering. White folks have always longed for black death, used black death as entertainment for themselves. In Duluth, Iowa, mobs of white folks hanged black folks because it was enjoyment. It was enjoyment for them. Why was Denzel Dowell killed? Because white folks salivate for black death. So they publicly hung, lynched Denzel Dowell, Dowell, in Rosewood, Florida. They razed, R-A-Z-E-D, white folks razed that successful black community, destroyed it, burned it to the ground. And in the process, they murdered 150 black folks, injured 300 more, because white folks have always salivated for, enjoyed black death and black suffering. It is entertainment to these racist, inhuman white folks, and is still seen as that today. Hence is why they are silent regarding black suffering and black death today, when black folks, unarmed black folks, are publicly lynched by racist white cops. White folks are silent because to them it is entertainment, it is enjoyment, it appeases their sick, delusionist minds, my beautiful, intelligent black brothers and sisters. All we are doing here is espousing truths about white folks. We also espouse truths about black folks. We espouse truths about all things. We do not propagate lies. We do not spread lies. We do not spread innuendos. We do not spread half-truths. And we do not omit facts and truths. We espouse facts and truths unequivocally, my beautiful, intelligent black brothers and sisters. That's all I have on this one.